Yeah, I'd like to pay for my groceries. Do you want paper or plastic? I'll take paper, please. Well, we're all out of paper, so all we have is plastic. That'll work. You know, you should really bring your own bags when you shop, because plastic bags make cow farts, and they aren't good for the environment. Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't have this green thing back in my day. Your generation didn't care enough to save our environment for future generations. You're right. Our generation didn't have the green thing. Back then, we returned milk bottles, soda bottles, and beer bottles to the store. The store sent them back to the plant to be washed and sterilized and refilled, so they could use the same bottles over and over. So they really were recycled.
What the hell is he talking about?
But we didn't have the green thing back in our day. Grocery stores bagged our groceries in brown paper bags that we reused for numerous things. Most memorable, besides household garbage bags, was the use of brown paper bags as book covers for our school books. This was to ensure that our books that the schools provided for us were not defaced by our scribblings. But too bad we didn't do the green thing back then. We walked upstairs because we didn't have an escalator in every store and office building. We walked to the grocery store and didn't climb into a 300 horsepower machine every time we had to go 2 blocks. But you're right, we didn't have the green thing in our day. Back then, we washed babies' diapers because we didn't have the throwaway kind. We dried clothes on a line, not in an energy goblin machine burning up 220 volts. Wind and solar power really did dry our clothes back in our early days. Kids got hand-me-down clothes from their brothers or sisters. Not always new clothes either. But young lady, you're right. We didn't have the green thing back in our day. Back then we had one TV or a radio in the house. Not a TV in every room. And the TV had a small screen the size of a handkerchief. Not a screen the size of the state of Montana. In the kitchen we blended and stirred by hand because we didn't have electric machines to do everything for us. When we packaged a fragile item to send in the mail, we used wadded up old newspapers to cushion it. Not styrofoam or plastic bubble wrap. Back then, we didn't fire up an engine and burn gasoline just to cut the lawn. We used a push mower that ran on human power. We exercised by working, so we didn't need to go to a health club to run on treadmills that operate on electricity. But you're right, we didn't have the green thing back then. We drank from a fountain when we were thirsty, instead of using a cup or a plastic bottle every time we had to have a drink of water. We refilled writing pens with ink instead of buying a new pen. And we replaced the razor blade in a razor instead of throwing away the whole razor just because the blade got dull. But we didn't have the green thing back then. Back then, people took the streetcar or a bus, and kids rode their bikes to school. Or they walked instead of turning their moms into a 24-hour taxi service in the family's $45,000 SUV or van, which cost what a whole house did before the green thing came around. We had one electrical outlet in the room. Not an entire bank of sockets to power a dozen appliances. And we didn't need a computerized gadget to receive a signal beam from satellites 23,000 miles out in space in order to find the nearest gas station. Isn't it sad that your generation blames our generation for how wasteful we old folks used to be just because we didn't have the green thing back then? Have a nice day. The was he talking about?
The green thing. Good morning. This is Mike the Patriot coming to you live from the downtown metropolis of LaMonte, Missouri. Got to have a little fun, break the ice. Too much nasty stuff to talk about. So I thought I'd play that. Is it rabbit season or duck season? I don't know. Is it Ukraine season or Israel season? I don't know. But we're about to find out that there's a whole lot more going on than we thought. This stuff's even deeper than you could imagine. Anyways, as you're logging in, say hi where you're watching from. Go over to the description section and find the links to my other socials. Make sure you follow me everywhere because you just never know when one won't be working. But as you're coming on, say hi where you're watching from because you guys are checking in from all over the place. We got Indiana checking in, Florida, Cowpen, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Northwest Ohio, Salt Lake City, Utah, Kentucky. We got Georgia checking in, Chicago checking in. See, the scripture for today is John 10, 1 through 10. We have North Kakalaka's checking in. Athens, Texas is checking in with us this morning. We got Mississippi checking in. Marine in the Woods must be talking about the Army. Says a big green weenie. I don't know what that's referring to. North Dakota checking in. Washington is checking in. Dallas is in the house. Southampton, England is checking in. Well, how about that? Across the pond. U.S. Marine Corps is in the house. Ohio, Arkansas, Hocking Hills, Ohio, Kentucky. That means they can. Another Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Colorado, Florida. All checking in this morning as I scroll through and just see in the comments. Here we got Oregon checking in early in the morning, and I'm sure California is checking in too. They always do. Thank you all for being out there. Appreciate every single one of you being out there, because it makes my life not so boring to have someone to talk to and to rant about. Let's see what the breaking news is on CNBC. It says Dow rises for the fourth days as yields continue to retreat. Exxon makes a deal, whatever that means. Yeah, those yields are deceiving. Don't trust them. Don't trust them at all. It's not over yet. Baltimore's checking in. Aaron checks in from communist Toronto, Canada, as they're cracking down over there. But there's all kinds of stuff happening. We know what's going on over in the Middle East. We know what's happening all around. As things get a little bit ugly. Here is some interesting. Where's it at? Man, I'm all out of sorts already. So we got breaking news, and I wanted to break it to you. So, some information came out that you probably missed, because everybody is talking about what's going on with the war over there, the Israel and with Ukraine and the money and all that stuff, that things are getting covered up and not talked about. But this is breaking. This is America First Legal reporting, breaking our FOIA request. Our FOIA lawsuit against the National Archives has now revealed that Vice President Biden's office had 19,335 emails with Rosemont Seneca, that's Hunter Biden's law firm in Ukraine, 4,243 emails with Hunter Biden's. This is the Vice President's office, not the Vice President, not Joe Biden's personal account, his official account. 1,751 emails with Jim Biden and 3,738 emails with Jim's Lion Hall Group. Now, the Lion Hall Group is the construction company that had never constructed anything before in its entire existence, that got a multi-billion-dollar no-bid contract to construct construction in Iraq. Now you know why groups like the Hillary Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, is wanting to move in and help rebuild Ukraine, so they get some of their money. And then there's breaking news on this headline too. Just some more details about it. It says breaking leaked docs revealed thousands of emails between Vice President and Hunter Biden's businesses. On Tuesday, a watchdog group, American First Legal, revealed a vast number of email exchanges between Vice President Biden's office and various businesses linked to his family members. According to the documents submitted to the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, the National Archives and Records Administration found that, and I run the numbers there, 19,335 emails exchanged with Rosemont Seneca. Now, are there any trolls out there? Are you trolling today? Where's the trolls at? If you're a troll, raise your hand. I'd like to see you. Because let me be clear about this. This is what you call evidence. Okay. 19,335 emails exchanged between Joe Biden's office as vice president when he was in charge of Ukraine. He was the point man on Ukraine, and Rosemont Seneca, his son Hunter Biden's company in Ukraine. This was what the prosecutor was looking into that got him fired. That you know the drill. What the prosecutor was looking into that got him fired. This is all this right here.
And I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch.
You are a blabbermouth! A blabbermouth! You! Blabbermouth! Out! Out!
So that's what this is all in relation to. And the information regarding the emails was released after a Freedom of Information Act request filed by America First Legal was granted in court. So they were fighting it, but the court said you have to release it. The GOP Oversight Committee took to Twitter to comment on the situation, pointing out that Joe Biden had once assured the public that an absolute wall between his work as an elected official and his family business ventures. The committee stated that doesn't match the track record. New information from the National Archives show that the Biden VP office emailed his son, his brother Jim, and both other business partners, and other businesses over 29,000 times. There is a renewed focus on the allegations surrounding the Biden. My back's killing me. Biden's family international business dealings last month, as a series of documents and emails released by the House GOP seem to indicate more instances of influence peddling by the Biden administration, including interference in federal investigations. The plot thickens. Chairman James Comer had spotlighted details of bank wires sent to Hunter Biden from Chinese nationals, the Biden family relationship with foreign entities, particularly in light of details from lobbying firm Blue Star Strategies showing Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company, was apparently privy to the Vice President Biden's planned talking points for the 2015 trip to Ukraine. So in other words, Burisma somehow magically got Vice President Biden's speech prior to his speech. I wonder how that happened. Yuri Lelinsko, former prosecuting general for Ukraine, has alleged that Joe Biden used his influence to protect his son's Ukrainian employer in exchange for payments. I just talked about that. You don't get the $1 billion if you don't fire the prosecutor. There is a claim they have proof of a wire of significant funds from Zelensky to Rosemont Syndicate Partners LLC, which they claim directly went to benefit Joe Biden. In other words, pay to play. In other words, quid pro quo. In other words, this is what they impeached Donald Trump over. This right here. They impeached Donald Trump because Joe Biden was corrupt. They impeached Donald Trump. The first impeachment, or no, the second impeachment. I don't know. One of the impeachments. the whole thing is ridiculous because Joe Biden wanted to fire the prosecutor to protect his son. Does that make any sense to you? Now we're going to go a little deeper into another situation. We'll get back to Joe in a minute. We want to talk about some other things here first, because there's some interesting stories breaking loose. This is Molly Hemingway reporting. It says former CIA director Michael Hayden calls for the assassination of Senator Tuberville because the senator is performing a desperately needed oversight of U.S. military. Now, what's going on is Senator Tuberville, that's how you say his name, Tuberville, whatever it is, of Alabama, former coach, I think at Auburn University coach. He is a freshman or a sophomore congressman, or senator, I don't remember which, but he is holding up the advancement of senior military personnel. They have to be, if you're going from private to private first class to specialist, that doesn't take an act of Congress. But if you're going from colonel to general, it has to be approved by the Senate. Normally, the way that they do this, because our Congress is corrupt, is just, everybody's approved. But Tuberville wants to, let's look at each one on the merits and see if this is really a good idea that we advance these people. And so he is holding up the process and preventing, and I say, how does one man do that? Well, through parliamentary procedures in the Senate, he's able to pull this off. Now they have voted. He's not stopping them from voting one at a time, but there's over 300 of them. So former CIA Director Michael Hayden calls for the assassination of Tuberville because the senator is performing desperately needed oversight of U.S. military. Hayden, a renowned civil liberties violator, promoted the Biden laptop cover-up and the Russian collusion scam. So he was all involved in that. General Flynn responds, he should be immediately arrested. Yes, I said it. It takes some... He's talking about eliminating a sitting U.S. senator from the human race. His words, our nation is such risk right now, and there is absolute zero trust of any of our government institutions. This lack of trust is exactly because arrogant a-holes like Hayden, he being a former CIA NSA director, making this statement only exacerbates this extraordinary lack of trust. The DOJ and FBI must take this threat seriously and hold him accountable. GOP must do the same. This is not a joke. These are very serious times in America, and we need to find ways to fix our American problems. Otherwise, we won't have America for much longer. God help us. So that's General Flynn's response to what this guy said. Here is The Hill reporting. Tuberville reports former CIA Director Hayden to Capitol Police over tweet, like anything's going to happen. I mean, for real. Senator Tuberville, Alabama, reported former CIA Director Michael Hayden to the Capitol Police on Tuesday over a former general's tweet suggesting the lawmaker should be removed from the human race. In a post on X, formerly known as Twitter, asking if the senator should be removed from the Senate Armed Forces Committee due to placing holds on military promotions, Hayden's response Monday saying, how about the human race? Tuberville characterized the tweet as promoting politically motivated assassination. This statement is disgusting and is repugnant to everything we believe in as Americans, Tuberville said in a statement on Tuesday. Given General Hayden's long career in Washington, he must have known that making such a statement, he was committing a serious crime. His own efforts today are reinterpret what his own efforts today to reinterpret what he said are only attacked admission of guilt. Tuberville added that his office has reported the incident to Capitol Police and added, I expect that they will once again do an excellent job protecting members of Congress and bringing criminals to justice. Yeah. Hayden, a CNN national security analyst, doubled down on his take in another post on X Tuesday morning. I was surprised to wake up this morning to discover that many mega nuts had lost their minds over the suggestion that Coach Tuberville not be considered a member of the human race. Hayden said, I stand by that view. I'm wishing you all a nice day, even the intransigent Tommy Tuberville. Tuberville's coming to provide for current current and former military leaders over his hold on promotions that began in February in protest of the Pentagon policy that covers travel expenses for service members who are seeking abortion. So that's what his issue is. It's over abortion. Anyways, everybody thinks, well, this isn't a big deal. Do you remember when former vice president nominee with John McCain, and her name just slipped my mind. Doggone, I'm having a Joe Biden moment. Somebody tell me her name in the comment section. But anyways, she said that she's targeting the Democrats. And she had a little, on her post, she had a little target sign, a circle with a cross in it. Sarah Palin, thank you. I don't know why I was drawing a blank. I see her in my face, and I see her in my eyes, see her in my head, whatever. But she said that she's targeting Democrats and it'll target. And the media went nuts. Do you remember that? Do y'all remember that? And it was a big deal for a few days that Sarah Palin was targeting acts of violence against Democrats. Now we have a Democrat, a CNN analyst, former CIA spook, who probably have done more acts of violence, or at least signed off on, than anybody else in this country, except maybe other CIA spooks leaders. And the big yawn from the media. Who cares? It's no big deal. No big deal. I mean, besides, Republicans deserve to die. I mean, isn't that kind of the way it is? They could go out and say all kinds of inflammatory things and do all kinds of inflammatory stuff. But when they get called out on it, well, it's no big deal. Now, if it was a Republican who said something half as benign, it would be even less. Now, here's another breaking story that's going to blow your mind. Maybe you hadn't heard of, because the media is not talking about it much, although there's a report on Fox News about it.
Baltic Sea gas pipeline and a communications cable were damaged Sunday in a possible act of sabotage. Jens Stoltenberg saying, quote, if it is proven to be an attack on NATO's critical infrastructure, it will be met by a united and determined response from NATO. The pipeline runs between Finland and Estonia. Finland, which just joined NATO in April, saying yesterday the damage was likely caused by outside.
So there's another pipeline right next. Do you ever report CNN News? When they say something worthy of being reported, I have them on all the time. I don't understand the question, Ginger. I mean, when there's something worthwhile, I'll put it on. Half the time they're just a bunch of blabbering and screaming over each other, but you get what you get. You don't throw a fit. Anyways, there's a pipeline in the Baltic, right down the stream from the other pipeline that got sabotaged. Here it is right here. So we got another pipeline that's been sabotaged. You got to understand. You got to ask, what's going on with these pipelines being sabotaged? Let's see here. This is it right here. I've got another story about it. I got to find it though. Here it is. Insider paper reporting, probable blast detected before Baltic gas pipeline leak, Seismologist Institute. The Norwegian Seismologist Institute, NORSAR, detected a probable blast Saturday night in the Baltic Sea between Finland and Estonia, where a gas pipeline leak was later detected, it announced Tuesday. NORSAR has detected a probable blast along the Finnish coast of the Baltic Sea, the Independent Institute wrote on its website. Baltic Connector pipeline operations were interrupted Sunday due to a leak, rendering the country's last gas pipeline inoperable after Russian imports were halted following the invasion of Ukraine. The Finnish president said in a statement it was likely that the incident was a result of an outside case. Head of the investigation department at the National Bureau of Investigations, Timu, that guy, said at the same press conference that there was no indications that explosives were used in the act. The incitement comes a year after the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, a major conduit for Russian national gas export to Western Europe, were hit with a series of underwater blasts. According to NOSAR, a magnitude of the recent incidents were much lower than the Nord Stream explosion. The origin of the blast is estimated to be 20 kilometers north of Poldaski, Estonia, NOSAR said, adding the location and magnitude remains associated with large uncertainties. So we have another pipeline incident in the Baltic Sea. You know, I don't know who's doing all this, but I do know at some point we have lots and lots of underwater infrastructure for our country, lots and lots of other infrastructure for our country. And if it turns out that we had something to do, a retaliation sounds kind of bad to me. I mean, I don't know for sure, but it sounds like a bad idea. It could really be bad. And there's some information on retaliation, by the way. You know, Joe over the weekend was barbecuing while Israel was burning. But he's got more important things to do, and he'll get around to it. Had a press conference today, showed up almost an hour and a half late to the press conference. Lots of speculation on why he was late. This is the scene at the White House yesterday as they were waiting for Joe. Nothing. Just waiting. Then when he gets up there, Joe's got to make everything about himself. Here's Joe.
A lot of us know how it feels. It leaves a black hole in your chest when you lose family. Feeling like you're being sucked in. The anger, the pain, the sense of hopelessness. This is what they mean by a human tragedy. An atrocity on an appalling scale. We're going to continue to stand united, supporting the people of Israel who are suffering unspeakable losses and opposing the hatred and violence of terrorism. My team has been in near constant communication with our Israeli partners, and partners all across the region and the world from the moment this crisis began. We're surging additional military assistance, including ammunition.
There's a big black hole because it's all about me. It's all about guy can't stop talking about himself. Here's another example of Joe, and it's about me.
Stands for. Just over 50 years ago, I was thinking about it this morning, talking to the Secretary of State, the Vice President in my office. Over 50 years ago, as a young senator, I visited Israel for the first time as a newly elected senator. And I had a long trip, a meeting with Golda Meir in her office just before the Yom Kippur War. And I guess she could see the consternation on my face as she described what was being faced. They were facing. We walked outside in that sort of hallway outside her office to have some photos. She looked at me all of a sudden and said, "Would you like to have a photograph?" And so I got up and followed her out. We were standing there silent, looking at the press. She could tell, I guess, I was concerned. She leaned over and whispered to me, she said, "Don't worry, Senator Biden. We have a secret weapon here in Israel." My word is what she said. We have no place else to go.
All right. I'm going to pause it right there for a station identification. All right. I've heard from several different sources. The Israeli military +1. They have a secret weapon in Israel, they say. It's +1. Their secret weapon is +1. Whether it's 5 Israeli fighters or 500 Israeli fighters or 5,000, it's always +1. And that's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is what they're referring to. Now, you listen to what he says right here. Let's listen to this again.
To have some photos. She looked at me all of a sudden and said, "Would you like to have a photograph?" And so I got up and followed her out. We were standing there silent, looking at the press. She could tell, I guess, I was concerned. She leaned over and whispered to me, she said, "Don't worry, Senator Biden. We have a secret weapon here in Israel."
All right. That, I believe, is a true statement. He probably was over there. She probably did say that to him. But then this point on is a lie. This is why he has to say, "As God is my witness, is truth," or whatever he says. Listen right here.
My word is what she said.
My word is this is what she said. Why does he have to clarify that? Because he's about to say a lie, and this is the lie.
We have no place else to go. We have no place else to go.
One of his traits, if you watch him, is he repeats himself when he's lying. Because I don't think that's what she said. I think she said something in the way of the +1. Israel has a secret weapon, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So they can't lose. And while I'm on this subject, I said that the Bible says, "I will bless those that bless you and curse those that curse you," talking about Israel. And somebody got mad. Somebody wrote a comment on my show yesterday, and I'm going to pull it up here just because I want to make sure I get it right. And I want to respond to it just because, hey, if you get a chance, go to my old shows and like the comments, because one of the trolls go in there and get a whole bunch. Not bless those that curse you. I'll bless those that bless you and curse those that curse you. Did I say it wrong? I may have. It says it's a righteous thing for Christians to mindlessly mimic the decades-old rhetoric of God bless those who bless Israel. Who decided that God's definition of bless is? Christian community is lacking independent thinkers. You're right. The Christian community is, if they're true Christians in a relationship with Jesus Christ who honor God, they lack independent thinking because they use God's thinking. And by the way, they're Sandy Oyster or whatever, whoever you are, I'll take God's thinking over man thinking any day of the week, since he made us. But let me this mindlessly mimicking decades old rhetoric. It's not decades old. It's millennium old. Numbers, even in Genesis, it says that. Several places in the Bible. So it's at least 5,000 years old. At least 5,000 years old. So think about that for a minute. Consider that when you make comments like that you're going to look kind of foolish. It's not a decade-old trope, as you would say. It's not. It is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob telling Abraham that he will bless those that bless his descendants, Israel, and curse those that curse his descendants, Israel, that he, through his descendants, that God would bless the world, that is his son Jesus Christ, coming through the line of David, through the line of Abraham, into the world to bless the world. So you don't have to like it or believe it. I don't care. But when you say, who says God, who determines what God blesses? God determines. He also says in the Bible, I'll bless whom I bless, and I'll curse whom I curse. It's not your choice. He'll use who he wants to use. He'll bless whom he wants to bless. He'll curse whom he wants to curse. It's not your choice. God is in control, whether you like it or not. God's will be done. And you could be in the midst of God's will and receive blessings, or you could be outside God's will and receive curses. The choice is up to you. And frankly, it doesn't matter to me because it's not my determination. There's two things at play here: God's sovereign will, his power, authority, and glory, and his grace, and your will. You can choose to align your will with God's will and receive his grace, or choose not to and receive his curse that was put on man at the Garden of Eden and condemned all to hell. You see, because we ate of the forbidden fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, we could no longer be in the presence of God. Period. That's the truth. God is sending no one to hell. You just can't be in his presence, so there's no other alternative when you die. Eternity is forever. You are eternal. You will live forever. The question is, in hell with eternal judgment, or in heaven in God's glory? Those are the questions that you have to ask. Well, it says in the Bible it's going to be a new earth and we're going to be whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I can't do anything about any of that. I figure God's going to take care of it. I'll do whatever God says. It will be good. The rapture is going to happen next 50. Fine. Again, I could do nothing about that either. The choice is you accept Christ as a free gift of salvation, the sacrifice that had to be made, the death that had to happen in order for you to be cleansed of your unrighteousness. That was your inheritance, and be able to stand in the presence of God. So you can do like the guy on the cross and lean over and say, Lord, remember me, or not. It's your choice. But God's not sending you to hell. When you wind up there, you are, because he paid the price. The sacrifice was made. You had to die. But a death price was already paid by the perfect lamb. So there you go. You choose you. Since I was on the subject, I thought I'd go down that road. Here's the rest of Joe's wonderful speech, and then we'll move on.
For 75 years, Israel has stood as the ultimate guarantor of the security of Jewish people around the world.
Well, what was the only guarantor again? I didn't catch that part.
No. We have no place else to go. For 75 years, Israel has stood as the ultimate guarantor.
Is it who was?
75 years, Israel stood as the ultimate guarantor.
Okay, somebody tell me what he said. One more time so you can hear it. Listen to it again.
For 75 years, Israel stood as the ultimate guarantor. Security.
I don't know what he's. I don't know what he's saying. Who's the only guarantor? I don't have any idea. Somebody tell me what he said.
Jewish people around the world, so that the atrocities of the past could never happen again. And let there be no doubt, the United States has Israel's back. We will make sure the Jewish and democratic state of Israel can defend itself today, tomorrow, as we always have. It's as simple as that. These atrocities have been sickening. We're with Israel. Let's make no mistake. Thank you.
Mr. President, what was your reaction?
As he walks off, making no comment. Now, y'all are out there going, Israel is the only guarantor. Yeah, that's what you're assuming he says. That's what you guys are making an assumption, because that's the only thing that makes sense. But that's not what he said. Tell me what he said.
Israel is the ultimate guarantor. For 75 years, Israel stood as the ultimate guarantor. For 75 years, Israel stood as the ultimate guarantor.
Okay, I understand you guys are saying what you think he said, what you think he should have been saying, what he was trying to say. But what did he say? Somebody tell me that. That's what I want to know. Coming from me, this criticism is laughable because I can't pronounce words. But then again, I'm not president of the United States of America. I'm some dumb dude on the internet. So it makes no difference if I can't pronounce a word, if I stumble over my sentences, if I get words backwards, if I say the wrong thing. That's right. No one knows, but everyone claps. Lord have mercy. What are we going to do? And then this is remarkable right here. He said blah blah blah pretty much. This is the president's speech on what's going on in the Middle East live on X. And notice there's 153 viewers. I have 404 on Rumble and 252 on Facebook. And there's 153 views. 153 viewers are watching him on X. I mean, I know a bunch of people are probably watching this on TV and all this other stuff, but 153 views on X. I mean, literally Tucker Carlson posts something on X and within 15 minutes gets 1 million views. So, yeah. That is bad. That is really, really, really, really bad. I mean, that's so bad. Well, here, Rasmussen reports. How likely are you to vote for President Donald Trump in 2024 presidential election? Democrats only. Very likely, 19%. Somewhat likely, 11%. 19 plus 11 equals 30%. AKA big trouble for DNC. Today, more than half of all voters, including 80% of Republicans, now say they are voting next year for Donald Trump. And most don't much care who he picks as a running mate or how the times change. Oh, how the times change. %30 of Democrats talking about voting. So you got 30% of Democrats voting for Donald J. Trump. You're going to have 30% of Democrats voting for at least RFK as an independent. This next election, Marine in the Woods says, Joe Biden said, Israel supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Yeah, something like that. I don't think Joe could say that, actually. So, Joe Biden, no one's going to vote for this guy. if he survives. And I mean that politically, maybe not politically. I don't know. Anyways, here's Joe Pags.
You believe this after basically shutting things down at noon for 2 straight days. Joe Biden finally comes out and makes a statement about Hamas attacking Israel and then doesn't take even one question.
We're with Israel. Let's make no mistake. Thank you.
Mr. President, what was your reaction?
Now keep in mind, this guy is the leader of the Democrat Party. That's his party. You had people from his party for 3 straight days now showing support to the terrorist organization Hamas, showing support to what would be Palestine, and he didn't even say a word about it. That's stunning. Give me your thoughts. Comment. Make sure you like, share, and follow. Come on.
No, we are not at war with Israel yet. We're supporting Israel. We're at war with the rest of the world. Well, we will be. Here is the White House spokesperson, Karine Jean-Pierre, as she's asked questions about Israel at war.
President Biden and Vice President Harris continue to meet with the National Security Team to receive updates and give direction on next steps. The President held 17 calls and meetings over Saturday, Sunday, and Monday with his National Security Team. The President and the Vice President have held more than 36 meetings, briefings, and calls since the attacks on Israel began.
So Joe Biden had a couple of meetings and 17 calls over the weekend while he was barbecuing, with his staffers having a party. Leaked video from Gaza. Check my link. Not on my page. You want people to check your link? Get your own page. We don't do that around here. They're already low scoring on this post. That's amazing. Go to the comment section if you're on Rumble, go down, not in the live feed, go down in the comment section and like everybody's comments that are down there. Just because the trolls are down there unliking them. Here is the more from the White House on the war.
The greater our grief. More than 1,000 men, women, and children were slaughtered in their homes, on their streets, in desert fields, and among them at least 14 Americans. We mourn for all their lives, and we're actively working with Israelis to determine the whereabouts of the missing, including missing American citizens. As the president just said, what we've seen from Hamas these past few days was the same evil and barbarity that we've seen from ISIS. The unspeakable horrors they perpetrated on innocent people, women, children, the elderly, babies. These were the scenes we saw in Iraq and Syria as ISIS rampaged through. As President Biden said, this is not some distant tragedy. The bonds between Israel and America run long and they run deep. And we stand with Israel, not just in these dark days.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We stand with Israel, at least for now. That's going to change here shortly. Watch. Mark my words. There's more from the White House as they just basically have these press conferences, but don't say anything.
Fold in the days ahead. Let me repeat what we've now said many times and what the president said just a short while ago, so that everyone, including enemies who are thinking of exploiting the current situation, hear it loud and clear. The United States has always and will always have Israel's back. And to those families undergoing the unfathomable pain of having loved ones missing, our hearts go out to you. We cannot imagine the anguish you must be feeling right now. We know that U.S. citizens are among the missing, and we know that U.S. citizens, as the president just said, are among the hostages. We are working with the Israeli government and with our regional partners on every aspect of the hostage crisis, including sharing intelligence and deploying experts from across the U.S. government to advise the Israeli government and coordinate.
So basically, all you got there is blah blah blah blah blah blah. They just don't have anything to say. They just don't have nothing. Now they're talking about 20 or more Americans missing They just don't have any idea.
This in your interactions with the Hill.
So I'm not going to get ahead of the president's request and not going to take the place of the OMB director who will present the request that we send up. But the president was very clear today that we will be making a request to the Congress, and it will include a request for funding for support to Israel. And he has also been equally clear that we are going to renew our request to the Congress for aid to Ukraine. What exact form that all takes, that will be worked out and presented by others, not by me. But the notion that we're going to go up and ask for Israel aid and ask for Ukraine aid, that's unequivocal. We are going to do that.
Yeah. And that's right. More aid means more money, means 10% for the big guy, because we all need a little more money. We all need a little bit more money. And this is the way they get it. They call me a grifter because I have a sponsor for my show. No more money for Ukraine. What about Israel? Should we give Israel more money? Here is Joe Rogan.
This is crazy, man. I've been freaking out over the last few weeks, at nighttime. At nighttime, I'll be alone and I just start thinking about the future of the world. And I start legit freaking out. What would happen if we were legit Armageddon, Mad Max, nuclear war? How far are we away from that? And it could just give me anxiety before I go to sleep. I'd just be laying there going, fuck, how does this all resolve? And then this fucking Israel thing pops off. And now I'm legit freaked out.
I've been definitely buying a lot of stuff lately for my house, end of the world shit. I'm getting Tesla solar right now, battery packs so I can live off the grid. And
yeah, that's a good move.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can get your house solar, that's a big move. Just fucking a bit of at a certain point in time, what's the electricity even getting you other than keeping the lights on? What I'm scared of is all communications are gone. How hard?
Everybody's all, yes, support Israel. Where's the money going to come from? We're 33, 34, 35, 36. I mean, literally that fast. $1 trillion in debt. We're running a $2.2 trillion deficit. Where's the money going to come from? Just asking. We could just print it. That's going to work out well. But there seems to be things escalating. Here is Fox News talking about border crossings. Let's see, that's the one I want. This seems to be escalating. GOP warns that terrorists are crossing the border. Here we go.
You never want to be on the wrong end of a declarative statement like X is the biggest threat, right? Because something else can show up. I mean, before 9/11, we didn't think that there would be terrorists that got pilots' licenses and were hiding out, in and around us, and then were able to take nearly 3,000 lives, right? So that's the expectation now that something like that is possible. So of course it is possible that somebody, God forbid, could leak through on a border. But it is important to consider the facts about this, at least up until this point. So I went back and looked at testimony from someone who works at the Cato Institute. He went before the Subcommittee on Immigration, Integrity, Security, and Enforcement in September. He said, 0 Americans have been injured or killed in terrorist attacks by illegal immigrants or asylum seekers who entered through the southern border. And over the period from 1975 to 2022, the chance of being murdered in an attack by a foreign-born terrorist was 1 in 4.3 million per annum. That's just important to consider in all of this. I understand that you want certain things from President Biden. I don't necessarily think, and this isn't because I don't care about the border, that today's speech was about that. Today's speech was about Israel, and he had just gotten off the phone with Netanyahu, who obviously expressed to him what his priorities were in terms of what he'd like to hear. But do keep that in the back of your mind as you say that now, like Kevin McCarthy, this is the number one threat. It's based on the data. It absolutely isn't.
Until it is.
Until it is. The border isn't the number one threat, she says. Based on the statistics, nothing's ever happened with people crossing the border. Yeah, tell that to the young lady who died on the pier in San Francisco. Tell that to the people who are raped, pillaged, and looted along the Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico borders. Tell that to the folks in New York City who are being thrown out of their nursing homes to put illegal migrants in them. It's not a threat. Not a threat till it affects you. Melanie says, we already have money set aside for Israel. That's what I heard, but not sure if it's true. We're 33, 34, 35, $36 trillion in debt, running a $2.2 trillion deficit. There is no money set aside for anything. We're paying yesterday's bills with tomorrow's money. Think about that. We're paying last month's bills just before they shut off the electricity and the gas, going to the check kiting place to get the money to pay those bills. There is no set-asides. It's a promissory note. Backed by the good faith and credit of the United States of America, of course. There is no money. We have none. We're broke. We're beyond broke. We're broke as a joke. We're broke as a crackhead digging in a dumpster for some meth ticker items they can sell at the pawn shop. That's how broke we are. We're literally that broke. Yeah, we got some really expensive toys like aircraft carriers and stuff for now. Steve Bannon says this. He says down at the bottom, Biden has failed to remove 99% of illegals, released over 2.1 million into the country. He says priority 1, close the borders. Priority 2, deport all invaders. Priority 3, prosecute those that are responsible. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to post that up on there. And the button's all wrong. Tika says she couldn't even cash a check yesterday at Wells Fargo and ran up there on their lunch break. Huh. Yeah, we're broke. We're broke in so many different levels. It's ridiculous. People don't want to hear that. People really don't want to hear that. People want to say, there's money for my project. Look, I'm about supporting Israel. I don't have a problem with that. That's not where I'm coming from here. I'm just asking an honest question. We ain't got no money by design. How do we continue supporting Israel if we ain't got no money? So more on the border. The border is a serious problem that maybe we should pay attention to. Let me get to it here. You know, they want to talk about aliens. It's a fake alien invasion versus the real alien invasion. You know, they keep telling us they're going to release the UFO information. It turns out to be nothing to get y'all looking over there. Speaking of propaganda, we'll get some more on the propaganda. Oh, yeah. Remember I posted yesterday, queers for Palestine? Well, that's kind of like cows for McDonald's, you know, same kind of thing. Yeah, I'm sorry for that one. No, I'm not. Now, here's an interesting, you got to understand, you got Donald Trump Jr., you've got other people, you got Donald Trump out there talking about how it's here, it's now, they're coming across our border. These same people got Donald Trump Jr. talking about, good thing we have a second minute, and you better go out and buy an AR-15. The things are about to get crazy. Listen to this.
List. They can't match their names to anything because their home countries don't share any data or records.
Are we sending them back?
Who knows? Because some of those home countries, we don't have diplomatic relations with Iran, right? You know.
Yeah, you mentioned the 26,000 people from China. How are those diplomatic relations going? Bill Mallusion, always a great job. Thank you.
Fox News. You know, sometimes she gets on my nerves, but I hope we're sending them back. No, we're not sending them back. Then she mentions the people from China, the fighting age males from China. well, what's the deal with that? But that's not the one that's really got me interested. This is on War Room, Real America Voice, and listen to this guy.
States Unit 910. Google my name, Todd Bensman, and Unit
Go do
910.
this.
And you'll see all of my reports on that. They are clandestine agents in American cities, armed to the teeth with target lists already drawn up, waiting for orders from Tehran. If things really blow on the northern border in Israel and we help, watch out for Unit 910.
And I don't want to hear any claims from the Biden regime that it was an intelligence failure, because Todd Bensman has been talking about this for months, if not years. Todd, real quick.
Unit 910 is an Iranian Republican Guard Special Forces unit that has infiltrated the United States through our southern border and has teams of people waiting for orders with target lists. Now, yesterday I speculated with a couple of friends, and mind you, to the powers that be out there, to Jim and to Jack, as in Jack Booted Thug, my currently assigned FBI agents monitoring my show. This is hyperbole for discussion purposes only. I do not condone and absolutely condemn any talk of anything like this. I am not in favor of this. As a matter of fact, I'm in favor of stopping it. Unlike you, who's probably got agents in the field working on this right now, creating this stinking group of people. It's going just like in Michigan. But if I was a radical nut job terrorist and I wanted to cause a problem, a splash, get a bunch of media talking, I would send 3 or 4 man fire teams with suicide vests on a Sunday morning to stadiums around this country at the same time. You got 65 to 100,000 people in tight locations. You know, well, they can't get in. They have screeners and stuff. How are they supposed to get? They don't have to get in. Have you seen the cluster that's the gates at an NFL game? Ogbu snack bar, bang, bang, bang, bang, boom. Think about the damage that could be done. That's what makes me scared. That's why I stay away as much as I can. Especially, I'm going to redouble down on that now. Places with large crowds and cameras. Because these people will be seeking them out. Sean Davis says this. Down at the bottom it says, H.R. McMaster says the United States and other nations need to join Israel in response, just as our allies did in 9/11. That response should be swift and devastating to the Iranian terrorist network. By the way, they want to go to war with Iran. And the source of this unadulterated evil. It's evil. Be careful with the information you're receiving from the media. Do you know how I tell you that there's groups? I'm having a conversation with Aaron, my buddy, about somebody he knows fairly well who is in the blogosphere, who is in the podcast sphere, who has a very big name with a very large audience, who he's very disappointed with because of situations recently. And this guy's basically become an anti-Semite. I'm not going to name names. If Aaron's on here and he wants to name names, I'll leave that up to him. And the others that are on here that I've said, if they're saying things like, I don't know, and I'm not talking about the repeaters, because there are people that take what these people say and repeat it, but that's part of the problem. But they say things that just don't happen. They put dates, they just don't happen. They put crap out, it just doesn't happen. It isn't true. It's confusing. It causes problems in the community and makes us look foolish. Well, the media does it too. One media source reports something. I'll come back to this Sean Davis thing in a minute. One media report something, the other media's all run with it, but there's absolutely not any evidence that is true. For example, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Reuters, Associated Press, foreign international news wires, Sky News, all of them have reported this that the New York Post put on their cover. Inhuman. Hamas killed 40 babies, beheading some in a massacre of women and children. It's evil. I'm not saying Hamas ain't evil. I ain't saying that Israel has the right to pound the Gaza Strip into dust. Who started this war? The CIA. Who started this war? Hamas. There would still be peace in the Middle East if Hamas had stayed on their side of the border. Besides the fact that the history that we're told about the Palestinians doesn't exist, there's never been a Palestine. There's never been a country occupied by Palestinian people. Palestinians were a group of people who chose that name. They were Muslims, but they were radicalized, and they were a bane. Syria didn't want them. Libya didn't want them. Jordan, they were in Jordan. They were in Saudi Arabia. They were expelled when Israel became a nation. Nobody wanted them. Why didn't Jordan keep them if they were so worried about the humanitarian of it? Why didn't Syria or Lebanon keep them? Or Egypt? Or Saudi Arabia? Or Yemen? Or the Arabic Emirates? Or Iraq? No. They always forget that part. They sit there and try to say that the nation of Palestine is theirs. There's never been a nation of Palestine. There's thousands upon thousands of years of history of the nation of Israel. But I digress. Here is, again, New York Post talking about these babies killed. Well, even Israel's own military and their own government has come out and said there is no evidence that that happened. Yet our media is pushing it out there. Why? Because they want to go to war with Iran. That's why. They're pushing war, war, war, war, war. The hawks are out hawking. War, war, war, war, war. Why? You have to ask yourself why. I believe Israel has every right to pound Gaza, to pound Hamas, and the rest of their enemies into dust. You don't get to come over and kill innocent civilians without recourse. We'll get to that later. Here's that more from Sean Davis I was talking about. Americans' response to 9/11 is a cautionary tale, not an example for any sane person to follow. An aimless 20-year abomination that cost trillions of dollars and thousands of priceless American lives and limbs is the opposite of a swift and devastating, and it should be a stain on the uniform of every DC politician and fat general behind a desk who had anything to do with it. No war that ended as it began, with an enemy in charge, should ever be taught as anything other than what not to do. For Israel's sake, I hope its leaders learned its lesson from 9/11 that American politicians to this day refuse to acknowledge. And I hope for once that our government can do the simplest thing possible to help Israel. Get out of its way. Let it handle its own business in whatever way it sees fit. Period. Don't go over here spamming on my show. Go get your own show. Golly gee, it gets on my nerves. And that's where it needs to be. But instead, our politicians are investing in stocks of the industrial complex to get rich off of this. That's really what's going on. They're invested in stocks and all that stuff. I showed you that yesterday. Here's Joe Biden a little bit more.
The United States has also enhanced our military force posture in the region to strengthen our deterrence. The Department of Defense has moved the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group to the Eastern Mediterranean and bolstered our fighter aircraft presence. And we stand ready to move in additional assets as needed. Let me say again, to any country, any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation, I have one word: don't. Don't. Our hearts may be broken, but our resolve is clear.
Our hearts may be broken, but our resolve is clear. We're moving the aircraft carriers. You better watch out. Here we come with our aircraft carriers. We're going to solve this problem. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Israel can't deal with it themselves. Their God ain't big enough. The United States of America will step in and solve this problem. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And if not to be outdone, America decides to send a second aircraft carrier, according to the Wall Street Journal. The U.S. may deploy a second aircraft carrier near Israel, U.S. defense officials said, an escalation of U.S. military effort to deter regional powers from joining the war. Yes, he said deterred. Look, no one is deterred by this guy. No one. None. Nobody cares. Here is some more of the White House press briefing.
We do not know about their condition, and we cannot confirm a precise number of American citizens. We believe that there are 20 or more Americans who at this point are missing, but I want to underscore and stress that does not mean necessarily that there are 20 or more American hostages. Just that is the number who are currently unaccounted for. We will work hour by hour, both to determine whether we can account for any of those Americans or to confirm exactly what the number of Americans are being held hostage. And we will come back to you with that information as soon as we have it. As you know, very sadly and tragically, the number of dead has risen with each passing hour. And that's true of the total number. It's also true of Americans, which has gone up just today from an earlier report this morning of 12, then 13, now 14. So I cannot give you a precise number. I can tell you that number of unaccounted for at this time. That number could change too, but I want to underscore that that is not a statement from me that we have that many hostages. We do not know the number of hostages we have at this time.
They don't know anything. That's not familiar. How many people do you have in Afghanistan? I don't know. We don't know. We don't know nothing about nothing. Don't ask me nothing we don't know. Here's another one. Escalation, escalation, escalation. It says, Egypt defies Israel. Despite Israel issuing warnings about bombing aid convoy, Egypt has directed an aid convoy to Palestine through Rafah. Egypt thinks Israel is bluffing, We're about to find out if it's true or not. This is going to be interesting. What are we talking about? Israel's cut off Gaza. As a matter of fact, reports are breaking this morning that Gaza's last electrical power plant is out of fuel. They cut off food, they cut off electricity, cut off from the sea, they cut off from the desert, they cut off from the south, which is through Egypt, they cut off through the north. There's no in and no out for Gaza right now. It's a siege. Egypt has decided that they're going to send aid into Gaza regardless of what Israel says. So will Israel bomb Egypt's convoy? That will surely lead to an escalation and an outrage. And like I said, sooner rather than later, this administration will switch and flip on Israel. Here's some more. It says, if Israel enters Gaza and hunts down the Hamas leadership, Hezbollah priority will be to open a second and maybe a third and fourth front against Israel to halt Israel's momentum in doing so. It would bring in armed militias from Iraq and perhaps Yemen to bolster its forces, which could widen the scope of operations. Not just Yemen, but other countries have said they would join in. The number of Israelis killed to this point is over 1,200. In Gaza, they say there's 900 dead. So people are dying. And breaking news, just hours ago, a third front opened against Israel as Syria fired rockets into Israel from the north, and the IDF forces fired back. According to the IDF spokesperson, meanwhile, Hamas terrorists are still infiltrating Israel across the Gaza border using paragliders. So they're already opening up the second, third fronts. The idea is to deplenish the ability, the warfighting capabilities of Israel by having them have to spread around instead of consolidating their forces. Here at in the U.S., this is from dailymail.com, U.S. put Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 on standby to help Israeli forces locate American hostages as hundreds of brave IDF reservists arrive at JFK to answer the call to fight after terrorists beheaded babies, which may or may not be true. Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 have been put on standby, it says. The United States is readying its special forces to help Israel locate American hostages as waves as Israeli Defense Forces reservists arrive at JFK Airport in New York to join the fight. That's Americans that are heading over there. Two senior U.S. military officials told the Messenger that door knockers have been put on standby in nearby European country. That would probably be Italy, by the way. Ready to assist Israel, if necessary, in their battle against Hamas. The Israeli death toll rose to 1,200 on Tuesday. Military sources told the website that there is currently no indication that the U.S. Special Forces would be sent to Israel, but they're only a few hours away by plane if need be. So they put on standby. Then there's this story. This is from the Gateway Pundit. The enemy is inside the wire. Palestinian student group announces pro-Hamas Day of Resistance. Rallies at college campus on Thursday. That'd be tomorrow. A Palestinian student group has announced pro-Hamas rallies at U.S. colleges and universities on Thursday, calling the rallies a day of resistance. The rallies are being held to support ISIS-style attacks on Israel by Hamas. Thus, past Saturday, and saw hundreds of Israeli civilians, babies, children, women, and men slaughtered in their homes, and Kabuzites at a musical festival. Whatever. The National Student for Justice Palestine posted an announcement on Instagram on Saturday as the attacks were ongoing. Coordination ? illustration with a drawing of angry Palestinian mob with an armed paraglider overhead, along with a statement that read, "First reported by Messenger. Call to action. Students mobilized for a day of resistance." You notice they use the same terminology, the same wording. Remember when they had the Day of Resistance for George Floyd? Today, we witness an historic win for Palestinian resistance across the land, air, and sea. Our people have broken down the artificial barriers of the Zionist entity, taking with it the facade of an impenetrable shelter colony, and reminding each of us that the total return and liberation to Palestine is near. Being that they've never been at Palestine, how do they return? Catching the enemy completely by surprise, the Palestinian resistance has captured over a dozen settlements surrounding Gaza, along with many occupation soldiers and military vehicles. How can it be an occupation when it was Israel's land for the last 5,000 years? This is what it means to free Palestine, not just slogans and rallies, but armed confrontation with oppressors. What do they call us? Colonialists? You know, what is BLM and the Marxist groups out there call white men in the United States? Oppressors and colonials and occupiers. Don't they call us that? Listen to the language. As Palestinian student movement, we have the responsibility to join the calls for mass mobilization. This is a military term, by the way. National SJP is calling on all chapters and allied student organizations to join a national day of action. What kind of action are you thinking of doing? On Thursday, October 12th. If your organization is interested, please fill out the short form, blah, blah, blah. Palestinian groups across the U.S. have answered the call with statements of support for Hamas and rallies set for Thursday. Stanford University. Says a large number of Harvard students organized, blaming Israel solely for Hamas terrorists killing 700 civilians. That's right. It's Israel's fault and Donald Trump's fault that Hamas killed a bunch of men, women, and children unarmed. George Washington University, located blocks from the White House in D.C. We will be caged no longer, they say. UVA, University of Virginia, will be marching Thursday to support Hamas' barbaric attacks on Israel. Was the KKK marching across the lawn not enough? He says. California State University, Day of Resistance. Students for Justice in Palestine at Smarthmore, whatever, honors the martyrs and calls for more indiscriminate killings of Jews. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, indiscriminate killing of Jews. Just kill a Jew. That sounds fair. As Hamas terrorists execute, rape women, burn children alive, and behead babies. Again, be careful with the propaganda. Again, I'm in favor of, oops, it just went to X on me. I'm in favor of Israel responding. But be careful, the propaganda is trying to draw us in. So be prepared. Be prepared for what's going to happen in the very near future, especially if Joe Biden decides to enter this fight, because they're announcing what they're going to do. Now, here's a good one. This one's rich. It begins. Iraqi forces issue stark warning. U.S. will become a legitimate target if it interferes in Palestine. In a recent meeting with Iraqi tribal leaders, Hadi al-Amari, the leader of the leader and secretary general of the Badr organization, an Iranian-backed Shiite militia and political party based in Iraq, issued a stark warning for the United States. He declared that Iraq would target U.S. if it intervened alongside Israel against Palestinians, according to reports from Iraqi news media outlet. Amari emphasized that the new Iraq is firmly aligned with the Palestinian cause. The achievements in Palestine, now listen to how this is worded, the achievements in Palestine, which were beyond the reach of all Arab armies, are being realized. A new Iraq stands with the Palestinian cause. We will not waver in our support, he said. The achievements in Palestine. Think about that. The citizens, criticized other Arab leaders for abandoning the Palestinian cause, leaving only the Islamic Revolution and resistance factors supporting it. Today, it's the will of the Palestinian people that prevails, and the Palestinian cause is now desired by all followers of Allah bent and religious authorities, Amari added. Amari also took the opportunity to laud the Hamas terrorists for their recent attacks against Israel. The Taliban has asked for entry. There are 7,000 to 8,000 soldiers now in Syria from various ISIS factions prepared to invade into Israel. Lots is happening. The war drums are banging. Also in the news, also breaking, Turkey has announced. Turkey, our NATO ally, has announced.
Amerika uçak gemisini İsrail'e gönderiyor. Amerika'nın uçak gemisinin İsrail'de ne işi var? Ne yapmaya geliyor? Ve buraya gelen uçak gemisinin etrafında bütün botlarıyla, uçak gemisindeki uçaklarıyla ne yapacak? Orada bütün artık Gazze'yi, etrafını vurarak, indirerek çok ciddi katliamlara adım atacak.
So Turkey is now aligning, saying that if we support Israel, they will not stand by idly and let it happen. Now, Ella, you're saying Hamas is beheading babies and burning people, including children. Yes, I know it's being reported that that has happened. But even Israel's military and government says they have no evidence of that event happening. Yes, they've killed women, children, all that stuff. I get it. Be careful with the propaganda as they try to get us in alignment for whatever nefarious purpose they have next. I'm just pointing out that not everything we're being told is true on both sides. There's an agenda here. Other sources that I have, these are just media sources. These are sources on the ground in Israel. These are other networks of information other than the main media networks, other than the main right-wing mega propaganda networks, are saying that there is no evidence that babies were beheaded. Were children killed? Yes. And Aaron Cates, the Canadian Inspector Cates, the Canadian Patriot, he's just posted. He says, I spoke with James from American media and we think not true about the babies. So just saying, why are they putting that Why are they putting that information out? Ask yourself why the American media is running with that information. There's more to this story. There's more to this story.
Duty to respond to these vicious attacks. I just got.
It's our duty to respond to these vicious attacks. Respond how, Mr. President? Here's Joe Biden sitting in the war room. There's no fighting in the war room. I mean, situation room. But I have to ask a question. I've seen pictures of the war room, situation room. And they were different than this. So I have to ask a question. Is this in the White House, or is this in the executive building across the street from the White House, one of their sound stages? I don't know for sure. Just asking for a friend. And I played a video of Kirby saying that he just doesn't know how many people. It seems to be a standard operating procedure.
Many Americans are being held hostage at this hour, John.
The truth is, we don't know, Martha.
Today, how many American citizens remain in Afghanistan?
I don't know.
How many American citizens remain in Afghanistan? I don't know. How many American citizens remain in Israel or are held by Hamas? I don't know. How'd you get this job if all you know is nothing? Now, here's a walkthrough of who Hamas is.
Now let's tell you about the group that started this, Hamas. Who or what is the Hamas? It's a terrorist organization, but it calls itself a political party. It is, in fact, one of the two largest political parties in Palestine. Now, Palestine is divided into two parts, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. The West Bank is controlled by a coalition called the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, led by a party called Fatah. So the PLO rules the West Bank. And the Gaza Strip is controlled by Hamas. This group is ideologically and politically motivated. It rules a population of more than 2 million Palestinians. And it calls itself the face of the Palestinian movement. Hamas gets its name from an Arab acronym, Harkat al-Muqawama al-Islamiyah, which translates to the Islamic Resistance Movement. Now, this group was founded by a man called Sheikh Ahmad Yassin, a Palestinian scholar and cleric. In 1967, there was a 6-day war. Israel won, and they took over Palestinian territory. 2 decades later, Yassin established Hamas, and Palestinians rose against Israel's occupation. The year was 1987. The movement was called the First Intifada, or the First Uprising. There was a series of violent protests, attacks targeting Jews in Israel. 1 year later, Hamas published their charter. It called for the destruction of Israel and for the establishment of an Islamic society in historic Palestine. And then Hamas continued the attacks. They reportedly resorted to suicide bombings, rocket attacks, and small arms attacks. Their targets were civilians. The international community designated Hamas as a terrorist group. Over the years, it tried to morph itself into a political party, but it kept a military wing, a political party with a military wing. That's what they call themselves. And this wing was to carry out attacks against Israel. Hamas created a top-down government approach. At the top was the Politburo, a 15-member body which operates in exile. Then comes the Shura Council. Its members are unknown, but this council elects the Politburo. It also oversees some welfare programs in the West Bank and Gaza. And then there is the Hamas government. It implements policies and agendas set by the Shura Council. But it's more like a puppet government. So does the Hamas have a representative face? Well, it does, and it's this man, Ismail Haniyeh. He's the designated chairman of Hamas, and guess where he operates from? Qatar's capital, Doha. Hamas leaders have made Qatar their workplace because they had a falling out with their previous hosts, that's Syria. Which brings us to another question. Who supports and funds Hamas on the geopolitical level? Where do they get their money and weapons from? Qatar is clearly an outright supporter. Apart from hosting the leaders of Hamas, Qatar sends billions of dollars to the terror group. In 2021, the Qatari government announced aid worth $360 million for Hamas. That's $360 million that Hamas has never given accountability for. Where did that money go? Next in line is Turkey, where President Erdogan is a stalwart supporter of this terror organization. Hamas even has offices in Istanbul. In the month of July, Erdogan hosted the chief of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, in Ankara. Erdogan openly supports the Palestinian cause, and Turkey has repeatedly sent funds to Hamas. And even now, after today's attacks, Erdogan does not condemn them for what they've done. Listen to this.
As Turkey, in the light of the events that have occurred in Israel this morning, we call on all sides to act with restraint, to stay away from impulsive moves that will heighten the tension further.
So Erdogan is calling on all sides to act with restraint. No mention of how Hamas escalated hostilities and how they put thousands of civilian lives in danger. Despite Erdogan's open embrace of Hamas, he's not their top supporter.
So Turkey's government's asking Israel to act with restraint. I think Israel should use the same restraint that Turkey uses with the Armenians and the Kurds.
That title goes to Iran. Tehran provides Hamas with funds, weapons, and military training. It is common for Hamas leaders to meet Iranian leaders and clerics. According to a report by the US State Department, Iran provides almost $100 million every year to Hamas. What about the weapons? There's no clarity on how many they give or what kind, but here's what the Hamas chief says. Iran is their biggest donor of weapons. The Hamas leadership often visits Iran to plot against their common enemy, Israel. And they insist that this is not a proxy war, that they're not fighting on behalf of Iran, but they haven't found many takers. Over the years, American sanctions have forced Iran to cut funding to Hamas, but their relationship remains intact. So for Iran, Hamas is an ally. For Israel, it's a terror group. But how do the people of Palestine see Hamas? A poll was held in the month of June by the Palestinian Center for Policy Research, and they revealed some shocking numbers. Only 31% of the people in Palestine say that Hamas should represent them. A whopping 73% Palestinians believe that Hamas should not represent them. 73%. They say there's widespread corruption in Gaza and institutions run by Hamas. The poll also asked Palestinians another question. Who would they vote for if elections were to be held today? 56% picked the current Hamas chief, Ismail Haniyeh. And that's a clear majority, 56%. So what does that mean? It means that the people of Gaza do not trust the governing ability of Hamas, but Haniyeh continues to be a popular figure. Ever since Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005, Hamas has taken up the role of the de facto authority here. Over the years, they've purged political opposition. The Gaza Strip has remained under their strict control. Hamas has maintained its popularity with social service and the call to raise militias against Israel. But this time, they may have gone too far. They've launched an all-out military operation against Israel. Will this spell the end of Hamas? We'll be tracking this story for you.
Will this spell the end of Hamas? I doubt it. There's too much money involved here. And it's all about the money anyways. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's what it's always been about. It's about the money. Here is Fox News reporting, speaking of money, how we're supporting this by sending weapons.
For Griffin live at the Pentagon. And Jen, what more has the Pentagon done overnight?
Well, John, we've just learned that Boeing has accelerated the delivery of 1,000 smart bombs to Israel. Israel's Air Force took delivery of the bombs from a U.S. air base, we're told. The U.S. is rushing aid to Israel as we speak. The squadrons of fighter jets left the United States in the last 48 hours, and the first tranche of munitions are already on its way, according to NSC coordinator John Kirby. The Pentagon has reached out to U.S. defense industry leaders to accelerate existing contracts for weapon shipments to Israel. That from a senior U.S. defense official. They told us that on Monday. This is ISIS-level savagery, the Pentagon official told reporters. Israeli officials have asked for more Iron Dome interceptors, small diameter bombs, and ammunition rounds as the IDF prepares for a possible confrontation on its northern border with Lebanese Hezbollah. In 2016, the U.S. and Israel signed a 10-year memorandum of understanding on military aid, the largest to date, that will cover until fiscal year 2028. The senior U.S. defense official added, "We are deeply concerned about Hezbollah making the wrong decision and choosing to open a second front to this conflict." The USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group is en route to the Eastern Mediterranean, should be on site very soon, we're told. It includes what the U.S. Navy calls its biggest, baddest warship, designed to make potential enemy combatants think twice before acting. It was commissioned in 2017. This is the first new aircraft carrier designed by the U.S. in 4 decades. It has a full deck of warplanes to include F-35, F-15, F-16, and A-10 fighter squadrons. It measures 1,100 feet from bow to stern.
Okay, I gotta stop first. I gotta stop for a second. Come on, Fox. A-10s don't take off from aircraft carrier. A-10s, the Navy has 0 A-10s. Those are Air Force. The Navy does not have F-15s. Those also are Air Force. The Navy does not have F-16s. They have F-35s. They have F-18s. Come on, Israel. Come on. I'm reading the comments as I talk. Fox, you're not this dumb. There are no A-10s on an aircraft carrier. Some of the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. Here we go. Just straight up propaganda BS.
In 2017, this is the first new aircraft carrier designed by the U.S. in 4 decades. It has a full deck of warplanes to include F-35, F-15, F-16, and A-10 fighter squadrons. It measures 1,100 feet from bow to stern and is longer than 3 football fields. It's powered by 2 state-of-the-art nuclear reactors. CENTCOM Commander General Eric Kurilla, who's in constant contact with his Israeli counterparts,
F-18s that are taken off the deck.
Statement, quote, U.S. CENTCOM stands firmly with our Israeli and regional partners to address the risks of any party seeking to expand the conflict. The FBI has deployed teams of hostage rescue personnel and is working with Israel and other security agencies to locate missing Americans. John.
I mean, it has SR-71s. It has super space lasers. It has the USS Enterprise from the next generation Enterprise, and a Death Star. I mean, come on, man. At least somebody over at Fox. Y'all have college educations. Somebody do some research. There are no Oh, Lord have mercy. The missing Americans over there were probably tourists. Somebody's asking. Jeez Louise. This is a TikTok video, but it's a picture of Ashib Tlaib's office. Notice what's there and notice what's missing.
Wait, what? Rashida Tlaib. Does anybody else see anything wrong with this picture? Who's going to tell her?
If you look at that picture, she got the gay flag. She got, looks like a state flag. I don't know what the blue flag is. And she's got the Palestinian flag. You know what you don't have? Anybody want to guess what's not there? Yeah, the American flag. She didn't have an American flag. Things that make you say, who do these people really care for? Here's Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon, they call us deplorable. They call us mega. They call us all these names until they need us to fight in their wars.
We've just gone through this in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we went through it in Vietnam before. Remember, you came back from Vietnam, and the same people that wrote this spit on you. Spit on you. You want to have a conversation? Let's have a conversation. The deplorables and MAGA, they get no respect until you're begging them to save you, to pull it out of the fire. Then you need them. Then it's right back to spitting on them. Domestic terrorist. Where's Ashley Babbitt's memorial? Senior Airman Ashley Babbitt on her 38th birthday. Cold in the grave. Why? She was gunned down in cold blood in the nation's capital. That's what. Where are they honoring her, Wall Street Journal? Because all you're doing is teeing up for more Ashley Babbitts to go to the Middle East and die. That's what this is about. And some adults are going to have to pull back from the emotion and think this through and think exactly how this got here, what it pretends, what it means, where's it going. You haven't had the common decency. Oh, let me go back to this article. The need to isolate Steve Bannon's acolytes who treat shutting down the government for no good reason like a personal power play. The Republicans have to get serious. As for the Republicans in Congress, they will have to get serious about governing and elect a new speaker by dispatch. I think I've blown my microphone up. I'll watch that, sound engineer. You are the people that said on Ukraine, and we started with three, Thomas Massie, MTG, and Gates at the beginning of the war. We got 117 now. You haven't even had Wall Street Journal. Have you called once for the president, the commander-in-chief, this phony we got, to come to Congress under the War Powers Act and lay out a plan, actually lay out an objective for Ukraine? We spent $115 billion we don't have. We spent $115 billion we could have put at the border to have the security of our country. We put it on the eastern border of Russian-speaking Ukraine because of their sovereignty and their territorial integrity and their self-determination, not in the Rio Grande Valley, not the new Gaza Strip down in southern Arizona, no. Have you once called for the war power? Have you once called and demanded before another penny goes that Biden at least comes and says where we're going on this? Has anybody had the respect of the working men and women in this country to ask their opinion, since their sons and daughters are the ones that pay, their taxes are paid, the inflation is all caused because of your spending on everything else in the world, plus a $1 trillion military today? Do you ask their opinion? No. And when they stand up and say, hey, we got some leverage here and we're shutting this thing down because we got to go in a different direction, all of a sudden they're the worst people in the world. Hey, ADO, how your buddies over at MSNBC doing? How your buddies up at Harvard doing? Yeah, go to these universities. How's that working out for you? Oh, that's right. The War Room audience, War Room posse, the hobbits, the deplorables, they're domestic terrorists. They're the worst creatures on earth until you need them.
The worst creatures on earth until you need them. That's right. That's who we are. We're terrible. They don't want us. We're a bunch of ignoramuses. We need to be reprogrammed until we need someone to fight our wars. Until we need someone to fight our wars, we need to be reprogrammed. But you know, there's a theme going on here. Black Lives Matter's grassroots statement in solidarity with the Palestinian people. That's right. Black Lives Matters so much they don't care what's going on in Baltimore. They don't care what's going on in Philly. They don't care what's going on in Chicago or New York or San Francisco or LA or Dallas or Atlanta. Black Lives Matter so much they care about what white people are doing to other white people, or tan people are doing to other tan people in the Middle East somewhere. I think Black Lives Matter should stay out of international politics. If they really believe that at Black Lives Matters, they would be in the inner city Chicago trying to stop the gang violence, or Baltimore or Philly or New York or any of the other major cities where black kids are killing black kids one after another. But I guess those black lives don't matter. It's only the politically astute Black lives that matter. To Black Lives Matters. Yep, not to be outdone. Not to be outdone by that particular Black Lives Matters. Another Black Lives Matters organization had to jump in the act. Let's see if I got it here. That's right. BLM Chicago. They stand with Palestine, complete with the parachute and a flag. Isn't that swell? That's right. BLM Chicago doesn't care that little black kids are killing little black kids daily in Chicago. Those Black lives don't matter. They're more concerned with white people killing white people in the Middle East. Those aren't white. Take a look at them. Take a look at the leaders. Not the guys on the street. Some of them are as white as I am. To all you people out there who think that this Black Lives Matters, BLM, Black Liberation Movement, the people who founded it were from South Africa, from the Black Liberation Movement, which has now taken over South Africa, which is going in and rape, pillaging, and looting the white farmers that were there for generations, destroying their farms. Oh, by the way, when they seize their farms and slaughter the owners, men, women, and children, do they hand the farms over to the Black lives that matter that they liberated? No. They sell the farms to the Chinese because there's a massive amount of minerals on them, and the Chinese go in and strip mine them. And South Africa is having a problem getting food right now because these people don't believe their own propaganda for sure. They don't believe their own propaganda. And propaganda is our problem. You can't believe what they're telling us. You cannot believe what they're telling us. I'm telling you, I know y'all don't want to hear, some of you don't want to hear it. I mean, I support Israel. I think Israel has the right to, show it, to do it, to defend themselves at all costs. But the media is lying to us on both sides of this for a reason. What is that reason?
Tom, I'm currently 10 miles outside of Beaverton, unable to get inside the town proper. We do not have any reports of fatalities yet, but we believe that the death toll may be in the hundreds of millions. Beaverton has only a population of about 8,000, Tom, so this would be quite devastating. Any word on how the survivors in the town are doing, Mitch? We're not sure what exactly is going on inside the town of Beaverton, Tom, but we're reporting that there's looting, raping, and yes, even acts of cannibalism. My God, you've actually seen people looting, raping, and eating each other. No, we haven't actually seen it, Tom. We're just reporting it.
We haven't actually seen it, Tom. We're just reporting it. Isn't that, in essence, what we've been talking about here? Paul Sperry reports developing. Council on American Islamic Relations has been helping illegal Palestinian migrants after entering the U.S. through Arizona to stay inside of America. They are traveling with migrants from Venezuela. Since Palestine is not a recognized country, by the U.S., they cannot be deported. There are Palestinians being shipped in and around our country right now. Do y'all remember this? Just a little way back machine here. Do y'all remember this?
This out. President Trump's foreign policy, you've alluded to this during the conversation, the tweets, the United States has never been this close to nuclear war. Do you agree with him?
Yeah.
They would not trust Donald Trump with the nuclear codes or to have his finger on the nuclear button.
Donald Trump could lead America into nuclear war on a whim.
President Trump could put the nation on the path to World War III, and that the president's tweets have in some instances undermined American diplomacy.
Because it's not hard to imagine Donald Trump leading us into a war just because somebody got under his skin.
That the president's actions are endangering the country, and his threats to other nations could lead to another world war.
This is not a business deal. This is not who builds the next skyscraper.
The Middle East in flames. Israel has formally declared war after that unprecedented multi-pronged terror attack from Hamas. Several Americans are now confirmed to be among the dead.
Americans, as you just reported, are at risk. They're among the casualties in the Israel attack.
This morning, Israel under attack. Palestinian militant group Hamas launching a massive, unprecedented military operation.
The same country that's been chanting death to Israel and death to America for 40 years just executed the most deadly attack on the Jewish state since the Holocaust.
So can somebody tell me exactly how many wars President Trump got us into? I'll wait. And if that clip doesn't wake you up to the extremes that the media went to get you to hate this man, I don't know what else to tell you. So Biden sent $6 billion to Iran 1 month ago. And then Israel gets attacked with weapons that were left in Afghanistan by the Biden administration. Allegedly. I'm sorry, but I'll take mean tweets in peace over this bullshit.
Well, and Kathy says that when will America join BRICS nations? America will not join BRICS nations. I think we already have, and soon the people will be free from debt. You got to stop listening to the mega right-wing extreme propaganda too. That's not the way it works. That pipe dream is not going to happen. Nasera Jacera sounds to me an awful lot like you'll own nothing and be happy. Be careful who you believe. Military is not coming to save us. Donald Trump is not coming to save us. Even the great Inspector Aaron Cates is not coming to save us. His name just popped up on the screen. And since we're buddies, I can make fun of him. But the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is, for his glory and his purpose. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful of the propaganda being told by even our side, because it may not be entirely accurate. You may be believing a load of crap. Now, I believe, hey, do me a favor. I haven't talked about it today, but go check out my product, the Liquid Bile Cell. This product has changed my life, and it will be, man, I tell you what, working like I did, setting up and all that stuff for that swap meet really takes a toll on me. But this stuff right here makes a difference, makes it go away. You know, the snap, the crackle, the creaking, and the pop that you get when you get older, this takes care of it. It does it with a liquid collagen HA measuring technology. It's one of a kind. Nothing on the planet like it. Just shake the bottle up, pour it on a spoon, take a swig, and it'll change your life like it changed mine. It improves joint mobility and lubrication. It supports cardiovascular health, improves skin hydration, firmness, and tone. It is absolutely fantastic. And don't forget about the OVA product. The OVA product has changed my life. Not my life, my wife's life, and by extension, my life. The OVA product is a non-chemical. It is a supplement that helps balance the monthly cycle of the ladies and lower the symptoms of PMS and lower the symptoms of menopause. And my wife says it's made her a new woman. My mother-in-law says it's made her a new woman. People are they don't message me. The ladies don't message me, but they message my wife all the time and talk about how much this product has changed their life. You got to get a hold of it. You got to try it. You'll never regret trying it. And all you got to do is go over to the Patriot Mike Show fan page, go down to see my wife's beautiful face, comment that you want to know more, or send a text message. The easiest thing to do is just send me a text message at 660-620-2644. or an email to patriotmikeshow@gmail.com. We'll send you a link. It'll save you a few bucks off your first purchase. It's that simple. I just wanted to put that out there because I hadn't talked about it. We're almost done here. But this is what I feel. This is how I feel. Israel should have the right to defend itself however it sees fit, especially when it's in its own territory. And this is basically how I feel.
So somebody said, Nick, used to be involved in counterterrorism. How would you describe what's going on in the Middle East right now? Well, in technical military terms, Hamas is engaged in effing around, and the IDF is about to make sure that they find out, which will inevitably cause the UN and a bunch of countries that aren't currently being attacked by Hamas to tell everyone to calm down. The problem is with terrorists, if the calming down takes place before the finding out takes place, they continue to F around because there's no consequence for it. So what really needs to happen now is that the IDF needs to make sure that the terrorists in Hamas find out. And I mean find out in a way that will prevent them from ever effing around again. And that's a special kind of finding out that I really hope Israel makes good on.
That's right. Hamas is effing around, and they're about to find out. We shall see. DD over there on Rumble says, and thank you for that very much. She says, remember last month when we were celebrating all religions working together, this was up in Canada, against the global education agenda. That's right. Canada had a large, what was it, million person march, whatever it was. Aaron's still on here to tell you, all across the country. And it was Christians, Jews, and Muslims all standing up saying, we don't want our children to be trans. And she goes, I don't think the globalists like that. And now we have us all at war again with each other. Do I think a foreign military could ever breach American soil? I would think they already have. They're just laying in wait for orders. Straight on attack? No. It'd be Red Dawn. But I think that they could absolutely already be here. Here is Donald Trump a few years ago, 3 years ago, speaking to Rush Limbaugh.
That, and they've been put on notice. If you fuck around with us, if you do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
That's right. He told Iran, that's leadership. If you screw around, Iran, you're going to find out. Well, Iran is doing this, but you want to know who's really doing this? Why did Obama give Iran all that money? Why did Joe give Iran all that money? What's going on here? Iran is a CIA asset. So by extension, Hamas is a CIA asset. I have the picture and I didn't load it up, but I have a picture. Shows in one big picture. I'll post it tomorrow, of the missiles being launched from Gaza and the missiles, the Iron Dome missiles being launched from Israel. And as they're in the middle of the night, you see them going up in the air like this. And it says, paid for by the U.S. taxpayer. We paid for the missiles that Hamas are shooting, and we paid for the missiles that Israel are shooting. We did that. I told you that when this all comes out, when everything that's happened comes out, we will rent our clothes, sit in sackcloth and ashes, prostrate before God, begging forgiveness from a vengeful God for the evil that's been perpetrated around the world in our name, the United States of America. And if you don't believe me in that, wait and see. Here's one more from Donald Trump.
The Iranian government masks a corrupt dictatorship behind the false guise of a democracy. It has turned a wealthy country with a rich history and culture into an economically depleted rogue state whose chief exports are violence, bloodshed, and chaos. The longest suffering victims of Iran's leaders are, in fact, its own people. Rather than use its resources to improve Iranian lives, its oil profits go to fund Hezbollah and other terrorists that kill innocent Muslims and attack their peaceful Arab and Israeli neighbors. This wealth, which rightly belongs to Iran's people, also goes to shore up Bashar al-Assad's dictatorship, fuel Yemen's civil war, and undermine peace throughout the entire Middle East. We cannot let a murderous regime continue these destabilizing activities while building dangerous missiles, and we cannot abide by an agreement if it provides cover for the eventual construction of a nuclear program. The Iran deal was one of the worst and most one-sided transactions the United States has ever entered into. Frankly, that deal is an embarrassment to the United States, and I don't think you've heard the last of it, believe me. It is time for the entire world to join us in demanding that Iran's government end its pursuit of death and destruction. It is time for the regime to free all Americans and citizens of other nations that they have unjustly detained. And above all, Iran's government must stop supporting terrorists, begin serving its own people, and respect the sovereign rights of its neighbors. The entire world understands that the good people of Iran want change. And other than the vast military power of the United States, that Iran's people are what their leaders fear the most.
It's not just Iran's people that the leaders of the so-called leaders of this world. It's all the people. There's only a few thousand of them that manipulate everything. Then there's probably 10, 20, maybe 30,000 underlings in various countries around the world. But there's 7 billion of us, the average people, that they control and manipulate, that they want to decarbonize. But look, the military is not coming to save us. There's no white hats, blue hats, green, all that stuff. I believe some of that stuff in the beginning. I'm beginning to less. I think that there is a group of people who have been fighting this from the inside, but they don't have the power to change it. Yes, Joe Biden stole the election, but in that stealing, he stole the government. That means he's in charge, or the people controlling him are in charge. I don't think he's in charge of when he goes to the bathroom. No, people aren't wearing masks. No, there aren't any clones. No, there's not a bunch of people in prison in Gitmo. That's a bunch of hockey poo. I'm sorry. The simplest answer is usually correct. Our hope is in the original prophecy that got me started doing these shows. And that is that I heard from a preacher in Florida and a preacher in Dallas at different times, a preacher in the Northeast, all say this, that before Donald Trump was elected president, this was in 2015, that Donald Trump is a trumpet to trumpet the evil in this government in the vein of Cyrus for such a time as this. If you take those three separate things, a trumpet trumpeting the evil, did Donald Trump not point out how evil and corrupt all aspects of our society is, from the government to the media to the Hollywood to the banking sector to the pharmaceutical sector to the military industrial complex? Do we not now know how evil and corrupt everything is? In the vein of Cyrus. Who was Cyrus? Cyrus was the king of Persia. Cyrus was the one who sent Israel back to their homeland to rebuild their temple and build the wall. To restore Israel, not as an independent nation in this particular case under Cyrus, but as a independent state under the subjugation of the Persian Empire. But that was Cyrus who did that. And such a time as this is a reference to Esther. And if you haven't read the book of Esther, it's a short read. I suggest you go read it. And at the end of that, the enemies of Israel end up hanging on their own gallows. And God does it. And that's what's going to happen. The enemies of us, the American people, the people of the world, the good people of the world, are going to end up hung on their own gallows, metaphorically. I don't know how God's going to do it, but God's going to do it. And it's sooner rather than later. And then after that, we're going to have a time of prosperity, a time of blessing, because a worldwide harvest is going to come as people turn to God en masse for a short period of time. A short period of time. What have I heard about the Brinson case? It's still bouncing around the courts. I have no idea. Other than that, I see stuff out there. There's lots of court stuff out there, but I don't report on it until there's a decision. I mean, I can sit here and get your hopes up on all these different court cases. I'm not going to until there's a decision made. Then we'll talk about it. It's a long shot at best. You guys have a great day. I'm running way behind, and I've got to go take care of some stuff anyway. So Patriot Mike's got to go. You guys have a great day. Talk to you all later. Trust in God. God first. Not the hype, not the propaganda, not even the Patriot mythology that's out there. Trust in God. You guys have a great day. Patriot Mike.